last night had some interesting games. The first one I want to talk to you about is Tottenham. Tottenham last night. Smash for 4 by Brighton. Smash for 4 by Brighton, or as everyone's calling them today, Brighton Munich, which I think is quite funny. Give me your thoughts on that Spurs performance last night. He's taking a drink first.
Yeah, of course. This is the representative of Tottenham Hotspur here, right here. Spurs, I told people about Spurs, nothing new. I was there in the middle of all the age. By the way, it's funny how the Spurs match reaction that Terry now does has less and less and less Spurs fans every time. I still remember earlier on the season when they were winning, there was 15 Spurs fans. It's crazy. Now that they're losing, 5 or 6 of them have disappeared. I feel bad for the guy in the glasses who said they're going to win the league. I have no idea what he was smoking. Probably Class A drugs. But this is who Spurs are at this point. It's not going to change until they have a massive culture change. Pochettino made Tottenham Hotspur a club that's relevant, that we speak about in these videos. Because growing up, like, no one knew Spurs, to be honest with you. But anyway, here we are now. They lost to Brighton. Brighton ain't won a game in 3 months. They've won 1 game in 3 months in the Premier League, and they were 4-0 up against Tottenham Hotspur, which is absolutely embarrassing. And when I'm looking at Tottenham, I think if they manage to somehow bottle top 4, given the start that they had at the start of the season, then massive questions need to be asked of that club's mentality, because if Conte couldn't change it, Mourinho couldn't change it, and Ange couldn't change it, then oh my days. And the problem is, I've had the pleasure of meeting multiple delusional Spurs fans over the last 3-4 months, who tell you Pedro Porro is the best right back and Vicario is the best goalkeeper and blah, 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 blah. And here we are, when they don't deliver, it's all Eric Dyer's fault. It's all blah, blah, blah's fault. So, I'm so happy I was one of the people who said Rice over Bissouma. I'm so happy I was one of those guys. I'm so happy I was anti-Spurs from the beginning, and it's now been proven right, rightfully so. Spurs are crap. That's basically what I'll say on that club right there.
Spurs are crap. Look, it was an interesting one last night. One of the Spurs fans we had in our match reaction, Will, said, essentially, last night only happened because Romero was missing. The underlying stats, the underlying numbers, the system, the process is all fine. It's just personnel. Do you agree with that? Was it just a case of Spurs didn't have the personnel to win?
No, because Will is one of them delusional ones that I met over the last 4 months. Big up Will. He has a very nice setup. I always say he has the best setup on YouTube, in my opinion, but he's very delusional, very emotional when it comes to his football club. And even if Romero had played, Romero is the most overrated centre-back in the entirety of the Premier League. In order for you to be good, you need to be rated to begin with. Romero is by far the most overrated centre-back in this entire Premier League. Romero is not better than Konate. Romero is not better than Virgil van Dijk or Saliba. Romero does not start for Arsenal or Liverpool or Man City or any of the top clubs. Romero is the biggest overhyped thing I've ever seen in this league for a really long time. He's crap. He's so overrated, and he's very rash. He goes into tackles. He can't control himself. He's not that smart defensively. One thing I will give him is he's good in the air. He has some fights, but he has some fight, to be honest with you. But other than that, like, I don't see anything special with Romero. And I think, for all people saying he's a World Cup winner, well, you think that's a response? Montiel is a World Cup winner. I promise you, none of you are taking him at right back or left back for your club. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the Spurs. We're giving Spurs too much airtime. That's 2 minutes too much for Spurs. They're fucking crap anyway. They're the only reason why I have an L next to my name, because they robbed me, fucking thieves.
Yeah, look, anyway. This year from Cal says, how do you say no to the personnel when we had 4 fullbacks in defence?
Brighton, have you seen Brighton's injuries? Was that Brighton's starting 11? Or does injuries only work when it's in your favour? Like, because we want to ask questions. And you know why me specifically you cannot claim this against? Because I was saying this about Spurs when they had a full team. Crystal Palace away, you had 1 shot on target, you scored twice, you won 2-1. You understand? So it has nothing to do with just personnel, full stop. No. It's not just personnel. It's philosophy. It's mentality. It's a lot of things. And by the way, Brighton are missing players too. You look at the injury list for Brighton. Let me just say it quickly because I checked this yesterday because I knew someone was gonna bring up this injury thing. They always love to do this. Brighton, I think, have 7 injuries if I am not mistaken. They beat Brighton. Just beat. Okay, Brighton beat Spurs, right? So they're gonna have the list of injuries there for 2 Spurs. Let me check quickly. And here we are. So next to lineups, who's injured? The injuries for Brighton are Lamptey, Webster, Enciso, Veltman, Ansu Fati, Mitoma, Adingra, Solimarch. So injuries only work when it's in Spurs' favor. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 injuries for Brighton. Webster, considerably important defender. Enciso, considerably important. Fati, Mitoma, who's their best player. Adingra, who's been one of their better wingers this whole season. And Solimarch, who's been one of their best players this whole year. All out. They had James Milner starting. Okay, James Milner, Igor playing left back. You get me? Yeah. What more? There's a new guy, Hinchelwood, played yesterday. Do you ever hear of him before the game? So don't make excuses. Don't make excuses talking about, oh, we had 4 fullbacks and it's just personnel. Rubbish. Because if Brighton had their full team, they win 7-0 yesterday. So where do we go from here?
Starlord here says, so when United had 13 first-team players out all of the time, it doesn't count. But now everyone else is getting injured. Players out counts. There is an element of truth that Man United, I think, on average 9 first-team players out for every single Premier League game this season, and still have at least half of our core missing in Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez. And the way we've played, it stages in the last few games with the way we've set up, we do a lot better with them. But yeah, listen, I hear you. I think the injuries do play a part. I think it's wrong to say they don't. And this isn't a dig at Cal, because Cal hasn't done this, because I think he's spoken about Brighton's injuries also being a concern. Where it frustrates me is I see people in the comments, especially when we'll say, maybe a Spurs fan will say, oh, we've got so many injuries. And they'll say, no excuse. And they might be a Newcastle fan. And then Newcastle have injuries and they get knocked out of the Champions League and they say, yeah, but we've got injuries. Injuries either impact how good your team can be or they don't. You can't pretend they hurt your club. You can't say they hurt your club and then pretend it isn't an issue for Man United or for Tottenham or for Brighton. But I think the more you have and the smaller your club is, the less money you have, the smaller your squad is, the lack of quality in your squad. If, for instance, City have 6 first-team players out, I think that impacts them less than Luton having 6 first-team players out, because the overarching quality drops even more for a number of factors as a general rule. So you have
okay,
to.
But then using that logic, shouldn't Brighton feel more hard done by for having the injuries then? Because Brighton are a considerably smaller club than Spurs, and I just named you 8 players who are out for Brighton, who are all integral and important pieces in their team. So why should I? So I should sit up here and I should go, oh, Spurs would have won had they had Romero. Okay, so what would have happened if Brighton had Mitoma or they had Adingra, both scored at Old Trafford, or they had Adam Webster at the back, or they had Enciso to bring off the bench? Instead, they had James Milner and Buonanotte playing in midfield, and they ended up winning by. They were 4-0 up. They were 4-0 up 70 minutes in. So this is the thing, like.
No, mate, I agree. Me and Twisted Bubba agree here. Injuries are a quantifiable reason. I wouldn't necessarily use the word failure, but they are a reason sometimes why you lose. But you have to take it into consideration. For instance, if Man United have got 8 players out and we play Villa and they have 8 players out, then it's no excuse for that individual game because both teams are in a similar situation. If Man United have 8 of their first-team players out, and we play Man City that have no injuries or just 1 injury, then of course it gives them, they've already got an advantage because they're better. It gives them an even bigger advantage. So I think you have to take it by a case situation, really. I think that's what you have to do. But Spurs, they've got Bournemouth at home who have been in great form recently. Well, what did you see the score being in that game, bro?
Bournemouth are winning the game. Bournemouth have been the most informed team in the league. They've been one of the more difficult teams to play. Bournemouth are winning. Spurs lose another game, but they got their Spurs back. Ainge has them passing 3 passes in a row, so everyone's excited and shit. But yeah, I think Bournemouth are winning that game, and Spurs are gonna lose yet another game. Massive credit to Iraola. I think that's his name. That's his name. The Bournemouth manager, who actually came in after Gary O'Neill and is doing a fantastic job. According to the form table, they're actually the most informed team in the whole league, Bournemouth. And Bournemouth was one of the people who many people had, going down the season. So I think Bournemouth beats Spurs this Sunday. I think the game is, or Saturday. Is it tomorrow?
Sunday. No, they play Sunday. They play on Sunday at 2 p.m.